Hello.
Hello?
All right, so we're out of White Boy Rick, or White Boy Rock, as I accidentally started to put on the title for this video when I was typing it out a second ago.
The Rock says many things would have went different in this movie had I been in it.
No, White Boy Rock. I think that's most of the movies I'm watching this month on Musical March in September. It was certainly Rock Around the Clock. Anyway, so we're out of White Boy Rick because they only had one. Well, all the movies were premiered last night. They were just all at 7 o'clock, and there was no screening for anything after that. So I got a couple of movies tonight. I just had this, and we had some time to kill between this movie and the next one. So we just went over there for Freddy's. Like, I'm not used to not just immediately jumping in the car 30 seconds after seeing the movie to talk about it. It's like I've practically forgotten it by this point. So you don't think you're going to stick around for the next movie at 9:20?
No. Nope, going home. Probably go to bed.
You're skipping the best reviewed movie that's out this weekend. And I'm not talking about Unbroken 2.
I'll be seeing it tomorrow, so
Sure.
I'll get a little sleep.
What, Unbroken 2?
No. What is the name of it? The Blake Lively one?
A Simple Favor.
Simple Favor. Yeah, I'll figure out what the secret is tomorrow.
Irving and I are at a Simple Favor tonight. That showing's at 9:20, so our review of it will probably be roughly around like 11:20 Central Time, 11:20, 11:30, somewhere around there. So, White Boy Rick is kind of the latest one of these movies. Like, you see a lot of movies like this now where it's whether it's a movie like this or something like your Billionaire Boys Club of the world, your Gold, which also had Matthew McConaughey in it, where it's like, okay, the tones will be different and the styles will be different, a lot of them, but it's every couple of weeks we seem to have a movie like this where it's like achieving the American dream through illegal means and stuff like that, and so that's this week's movie like this.
Yeah.
So what did you think of this?
I really enjoyed the movie. Is it going to be in my top 10? Probably not. Did I like the acting in it? Yeah. Did I like the way it was set up? Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those movies. It's a good one of those movies, but it's... I really enjoyed the way they told the story because it was different than the trailer. The trailer, see, I didn't read up on the real story of this.
Neither did I.
Because I didn't want to know. And the trailer had it seem like he sold drugs, then he turned state's evidence or something and became like a hero, right? Well, no, this is not a hero story.
Sure.
There's a lot of bad and worse people. And like you said, it's them achieving the American dream through any means necessary kind of things. But also you see the dirty side of the feds and the dirty side of the cops involved because they're the ones that get it started for him and things like that. All in all, I thought the performances were pretty good. I could have used a little more Bruce Dern, but I love Bruce Dern. That's why I want more of him. He was just kind of a there supporting character. But when he was there, he was good. Matthew McConaughey was really good in this. I don't know the kid's name.
He's a first-time actor.
I thought he did all right. It could have been a lot worse.
Sure.
Depending on who you'd put there. But he was believable enough as this character, as someone that goes from inexperience to experience. So I enjoyed the movie. Like I said, it won't be top 10, but it was still a good one, I thought.
Yeah, it's... What this movie does that's interesting is the movie is basically it's 8 Mile meets Scarface. It's kind of what this is. So in a lot of movies you see like this, whether they're going the Scarface route or the Goodfellas route or Wolf of Wall Street route, different tones, or Lord of War, War Dogs, different tones you could take in a movie like this. What this one does, I thought, that made it stand out from a lot of those, because a lot of movies like that can kind of blend into one another a little bit, especially if they're trying to ape somebody else's style, like Billionaire Boys Club trying to ape Wolf of Wall Street. War Dogs with some of the movies that came before it, things that just don't really seem like they have that unique of a voice. They're just trying to capture the feel of something else. This one really did feel like it sort of stood on its own, because while a lot of movies like that, you have them starting out broke. They start selling shit, whether it's drugs, guns, or like maybe in a movie it's a Ponzi scheme, or like white collar crime or something like that. Then they end up getting rich, and then they lose everything. In this, it's not really a rags to riches kind of thing. It's more like rags to sort of slightly better rags. Like, they never really leave the same house that they're in. It's like, oh, they're still living like shit, but dad's got a video store now, and the boy's got a couple of gold chains. He's fine.
Yeah, I mean, they show him with the cash.
Uh-huh.
They show him, like you said, he's got gold chains, rings, all that stuff. But yeah, it doesn't seem like they're. I mean, and they have one celebration, where you can tell they're doing okay.
Yeah,
but it's not like all of a sudden he's snorting mounds of coke off his desk like Scarface.
It doesn't do that. It felt really grounded in that regard, and the movie does have a really gritty look to it. It feels very, very real. It feels very authentic. You can feel some of the grime that's on screen. I mean, there are people in this movie that are just dirty. Like, the movie's is full of, like, just trash, basically. Yeah. Like, you can... It's like, I'm really glad this movie's not at Smell-O-Vision. Yeah. Like, I could sort of feel the shit stains on their tighty whities.
The girl that's the daughter...
Yeah.
She goes from bad to worse to even worse.
Yeah.
And that was weird. That was hard to watch.
I'm glad you brought that up, because one thing about this movie is most of the other people in the movie I found more fascinating than the main character of the film.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely... it's good he had help. Because if this was a movie of a lot of unknowns or something like that, it might not have worked. And yeah, the dad you were curious where he was going to end up, and some of the criminals he was working for, you were wondering how that was going to turn out, some of the cops.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, this is based on a true story, and you got to have that character because that's what it's about.
Well, sure, certainly. But everyone else's story I kind of found more captivating than his. I found the other characters, they had better arcs than he did.
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey is acting the shit out of this movie and throws in some really good lines every now and then, where he's talking to his son and he says, I didn't plan on having either two of you kids, but, I did a good job. And he's like, did a good job? Like, your daughter's a junkie and I'm pissing and shitting into a bag. And Matthew McConaughey is like, well, I'm a glasses half full kind of person. Like, there's really good lines he throws out. And I like how his arc is, he's selling all these guns, these counterfeit weapons, modifying them, buying them at gun shows, selling them at a higher price. And his dream is to open up a video store. Yeah. This is taking place between 84 and 87.
What was it? A guy walks into their house and they have a ton of VCRs all over the place. And he's like, your dad really likes movies, huh?
Yeah. I found that story good. I thought the daughter was incredibly well acted in this film. She has some really tense and heartbreaking moments where she's just a junkie. They find her laying on a mattress. There's this whole sequence in it where she's getting clean. They're trying to get all the drugs out of her system.
The stuff with her and McConaughey right there was fantastic.
Yeah, and her and McConaughey act brilliantly in those scenes, as they do through the whole movie. The main character, Rick, is kind of the same throughout the whole movie. Like, in character, kind of. He doesn't seem to have a huge arc through the film. He sort of is just kind of coasting by through a lot of it, and a lot of times I'm watching it going like, I'm not really enthralled by his story necessarily. That was before we got to the ending of the movie. But through a majority of it, before it gets to the film's ending, I was like, the character and the performance aren't really totally 100% selling me. The character in that, like, a lot of times it feels like, you know, if Superfly was acted by Forrest Gump, and I'm like, hey man, you're digging your own hole here, dude. And it's a very one note kind of performance. Like the kid, it's his first time in a movie. The kid is fine. The kid does a good job, especially seeing how it's the first movie he's in. This movie is introducing him as an actor, but everyone else is so much larger than he is. Is so much of a larger screen presence that they just really cast a shadow over him. And when I'm watching a lot of it, I'm always sitting there thinking, like, maybe the entire difference in the world could be made if they just gave him a different fucking haircut. Because his hair looks like the box cover to The Day After. I can't take you seriously, man.
Yeah, I know he was 15, 16, 17 throughout the years or whatever. That mustache of his.
That crustache that he had. Yeah.
And that scene where did you notice that, I mean, granted, I don't know how long it was between the scenes, but there was a scene near the end where he shaves it off. And then all of a sudden it's kind of back again. And the next scene, I'm like, how long was this between these two scenes? Because I thought it was like right then, but
the movie also did feel long. Like it is under 2 hours, like barely under 2 hours.
Yeah,
but
the pacing is very slow.
Yeah, it's because since the character doesn't really feel like he's having a huge arc necessarily. It's like, all right, he's an informant here. He's selling drugs. He gets shot at one point in the film, and then that was done well because that's realistically kind of they were really graphic when how they showed what the operation is on that, what he has to go through afterwards after being shot there, like that. They really pulled no punches in that regard. They pulled no punches in how the daughter looked after being a junkie and all these sores she has on her face and everything. Like, it is a grimy movie. Like, you really feel just the poverty around them, what they're living in, the shithole neighborhood that they're in. You feel that when you're watching this movie. But, again, everyone else is just so much more interesting than the main character that by the time it gets to when the kid is kind of screwed over by the cops near the end of the film, I was sitting there like, I don't know what this movie wants me to do with this information. And when it got to what actually happened with this story, by the very, very, very end of the film, I was like, okay, well, that is a bummer. Shit, man. Like, that's... I wish... Because that is such a tragic story... and, you know, such a punch to the face, I wish it would have made more of an impact with that if throughout a majority of the movie I cared more about the person. Like, not that I was sitting there going like, good God, this fucking shithead. Like, I wasn't sitting there like that. It was just sort of like, it wasn't the best leading performance or character that I'd seen. Like, again, not that it's bad, just so much more stuff I thought was more interesting.
Like I said, if he wasn't surrounded by who he's surrounded with, this probably would have been a forgettable movie.
I don't know how much I'm going to remember this movie necessarily. Like I said, I did appreciate that the movie, like, you know, we see a lot of movies like this. I mean, this movie is certainly way goddamn better than Superfly that came out a couple months ago, the Superfly remake.
Oh, yeah. I watched it.
The movie's certainly a lot better than that. At least, like I said, this movie really is offering a different kind of take on this sort of story that, like, all right, he's being really successful at selling drugs, being an informant with the police, getting all this money and cash and everything, and is still kind of living in a shithole. Like, I enjoyed that, like I said. And the movie is well acted enough. There are some great performances in this movie, and it's a good looking movie too. Like, it's shot well. Like, you can tell there's some passion behind the camera to tell this story, to make this movie. You can see it in the performances too. You can tell that from the trailer. So there is enough to recommend about it. I don't know if you necessarily need to see it in the theater, really, but it would be a good Netflix watch. It would be a solid Netflix watch.
I would say if you're going to see it in theater, matinee. solid rental, maybe.
Yeah. Even if you go see this as a matinee screening, it's not like you're going to be pissed off afterwards because you are seeing some really good performances on screen here.
I gotta say, I was a big fan of the soundtrack too.
Yeah.
I grew up with a lot of 80s hip hop, so a lot of that stuff I like. Of course, when the movie starts off with Johnny Cash at a gun show, you know, I really dug that too. So, so yeah, the soundtrack really sold a lot of the story for me. Because anytime they would go to the skating rink or whatever, you know, it'd be something I remember from that time. So that helped me enjoy it a little more too.
Over on my end, since I grew up with more so 80s pop, there is a part where they're in a drive-in watching Footloose, so you know, it had something in there for me as well. Any other final thoughts about the movie?
No, like I said, yeah, it's a rental. Definitely Netflix watch is fine. I mean, it's not one of those you'll be asking for your subscription fee back. But yeah,
I demand my money back for this.
Hey, there's movies like that. Even if I watch Superfly on
Yeah.
Netflix, I'd be demanding my $10.99 that month back.
I was promised White Boy Rock.
But no, it was okay. I enjoyed it. I would watch it again. I'm not going to rush out to see it again, but I would definitely check it out again. It's a better one of, like you said, those movies.
No, yeah, of the ones that have been out recently, yeah, it is. It does stand apart from those. So, all right, everyone. At 9:20, me and Irving are seeing A Simple Favor. So again, we'll be back around around 11:20 or so. We'll be back with a live review of that. And all right, everyone. Thanks a bunch in the chat for watching. Take care. I'll see you later.